So hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and today's video is part of my Python basic series, and the topic of this video is Python list. So before getting started, please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon for further notifications. Let's get started. So guys, I think in the last video in which we discussed about Python data types, I also explained to you one of the data type is Python list. So Python list is basically a collection, and here are the few features of Python list. First of all, they are an ordered collection. What does ordered means? It means that in whichever order you will add the elements. So if some elements are added later or some elements are added first in the list, they will remain in that order. So in case you will print the list, you will see the elements right in that order in which you have added it. This is called as an ordered collection. The second feature is that Python list can be extended. They can be like extended with some other collection. You can also remove the elements from the list, and you can also modify the elements in the list. The third feature is to allow duplicate values. So Python list actually allows duplicate values. In fact, this is the biggest difference between Python list and Python sets. That sets are not ordered, and also they do not allow duplicate values. But both of these things are allowed in list. And the last feature is that they can contain any data type. But this feature is kind of same for all types of Python collections, because any collection, either it be list, tuple, set, any collection, you can add basically any data type variable there. So let's start implementing it. First of all, how to declare a list. So I think it's pretty clear to you guys that to declare a list, you basically have to use square brackets, and inside these square brackets you have to add comma separated values, and they basically form a list, and then you can assign it to your variable, and you can see if I print that variable, I am able to see my output Python, Java and R. The next function is if you want to find out the length of the list. So basically if you want to print out how many number of elements are there in your list, then there is a function called as len. Basically this len function gives you the length of the list, and there is another so I will just execute this function. So this function is giving you the length of the list, but if I use another function called as type, and this type function will give you the data type of this collection. So this collection is of type list. Okay. The next thing is that we are just going to prove all these features which I have discussed above. So the first feature I told you that it is having an ordered collection. So you can see that it is also proven here that when I added my elements as first Python, the second element was Java and the third element was R, then all my elements are in the same order. Okay. And another feature was that it can contain any data type. So in this I can show you that there is one list which is having all numeric characters, one list which is having a string character, one numeric character, one numeric element and one float element. And when I execute this block, I have got no error because my list can have basically any data type. Okay. The next thing is how you can convert a collection to a list. So if you have to convert any collection to a list, basically your method is called as list. Okay. So let's suppose I have declared here a tuple called as my tuple, and a tuple is declared by these brackets, round brackets, and then I use this list function and I pass my tuple inside it. And now if you print this variable, my list, you can see that I am getting a result as a list. So now this tuple is converted to a list, and this function you can basically use with any tuple, or you can even use a set. So if I convert this into a set, then again I will get the same result. So basically list function is used to convert anything into a set. There is one another interesting thing. For example, if you have any string here, right? So let's suppose I have a string called as my string, and you have something like Python as a string. Now if you see here, actually strings are also in hindsight stored as a list. Okay, but if I do something like this, that list my string, then you will see that my string Python is actually now broken down into all its characters and it has become a character sequence. So it has become a list. Okay, so that's how you can convert any collection to a list. The next topic is how you can access any element inside a list. So basically there are many ways to access elements inside a list. The first way is that you can access any element with the help of its index. Okay, so basically you can see that I have this list here, my list, and this list is having 1, 2 and 3 as its elements. If I do my list and then in these square brackets I have 1, it means that I want to print the second element of the list, because in arrays the index always starts with a 0. So wherever you will see 1 inside these square brackets, it means that we actually want to print the second element. So in this list 1, 2, 3 are the elements. So what will be my second element? 2. So you can see that here I got 2 printed. The next way to access a list is with the help of some range. So if you guys have seen my Python string video, I have explained the ranges and the negative indexes very well inside that video. I will link that video in my description below. Please check it out, and I think it will help you out with these things. So just like I explained in the string, you can access any character of a string with its index. Similarly, you can access any element of a list with its index, and you can access a range of elements of a list with the help of specifying a range. So here the range is 0 to 2, where 0 is the first element which you will be starting from, and 2 is the element where 2 is the index which will be of the last element of that range, but that second index element will not be included. So here it will print the elements from 0 to 2 index, but 2 is exclusive. So the element which is at index 2 will not be included, but the element at 0th index, at first index, will be included. So if I execute this, I will get 1 and 2, because 1 and 2 are at index 0 and 1, but 3 was at index 2, so it is excluded. Similarly is the case with the negative indexes. So as I explained in my string video, negative index basically means that you are going to start from the back. So here -1 actually means that you are going to start from the back. That means the last element. So your last element is at index -1, and then starting from right to left, it will be -1, -2, -3, -4, right? So here I have printed that I want to print all the elements. So because I have not specified anything here, implicitly it is 0. So if I don't want to specify 0, I can just leave it as it is. So from 0 to index -1. So -1 means the last element. So obviously it will be, I want to print all the elements except the last element, because this -1 index is obviously not included in your result. So I again got 1, 2. So basically this thing is same as this thing. Okay. So if you have any confusion regarding the ranges in the list, then please check out my Python strings video. It will be more clear to you. Okay. The next thing is, if you want to check if some element is present inside a list or not. So there is a keyword called as in, and if you guys have checked out my Python operators video, there also I have explained it to you, and in the Python boolean as well. So basically in keyword is used to find out if some element is present inside a collection or not. This collection could be a list here. So here I am just checking if 1 is present inside my list. So because 1 is present, I will get an answer true. If I write here some element which is not present inside my list, I will get the answer false. Okay. Now we have covered the accessing part of the list. Now let's come over to modifying the list or changing the list. Okay. So how we can modify an element? The simplest way is you take your list, you specify the index in it, and just assign whatever value you want to assign. So what this statement basically means, that the element which is at index 1, that means the second element, will get changed to Python. If I now print my list, which was 1, 2, 3, now it is changed to 1 and Python and then 3. Okay. Another way to change a list is if you want to change an entire range of elements. So I don't want to change one single element, I can change a range of elements. So just specify a range. So here I have specified that from 0 to 2, I want to change these elements as R and Java. So here it will replace the 0th element and the first element with R and Java. So now my list, which was 1, Python and 3, is now changed to R, Java and 3. Okay. Now if you are changing a list, and let's suppose I don't want to specify the exact amount of elements which are there in the range. So here my range is of 2 elements. If I specify 3 elements here, let's suppose here I am specifying 3 elements, it will still work. Why? Because it will just increase the length of your string. It will insert R and Java at the 0th and the first index, but then it will replace C++ at the second index or the index number 2, and it will just push the last element of the list, which is 3 here, to the end. So if I now print it out, you can see my list is R. So R is here, Java is here. So R and Java are at 0th and second position. It just pushed C++ also in the middle here, and 3 becomes at the end. So if you are extending the list, if you want to increase the size of the list, then you can add more elements in this assignment. If you want to decrease the size of the list, just reduce the elements. So here I am assigning 0 to 2 range as a Python, as an element Python. So what will happen is all the elements from 0 to 2 will be skipped, and instead of them only one element is inserted, which is Python. So let's see what happened here. So 0 to 2, so 0 and 1. So 2 elements are in Java, both are replaced by a single element called as Python, and my list size here is reduced. Okay. Another method with which you can change a list or you can add an element inside a list is called as insert. So what we have done here, we have used mylist.insert, and then you have to specify the index of the place where you want to add the element. So here I want that the second element of my list should be this word, should be this sentence. Okay. So for the second element I have to write index number 1, and here you go. So on index number 1 I got this element, second element. Okay. You can also append an item. So what does append mean? Appending means that you are inserting something at the end of the list. So either you can use insert to insert something, or you can use append to append something at the end of the list. So if you only want to append the list at the end, just use append, and you can see that appended item is coming at the end of the list. Okay. You can also extend the list. So let's suppose I do not want to add a single element to my list. I want to add an entire collection to my list. Just use mylist.extend and then pass a collection. The collection could be a tuple, it could be a set, it could be a list, and just see the result. So my result is Python, second element C++ 3 appended item, which was my last result, and I have just added 5, 4 and 3. Okay. Now addition part is done, modification is done. The last part is deletion. How we can remove something. Very easy. The first method which we are going to discuss is called as pop method. So in the pop method, it will just remove the element which was last added into the list. So in this case, the last added element is 3. Okay. So if I execute this, the popped element is 3. And if I print my list, you can see the 3 is simply deducted from this list. Okay. Another way you can use pop is by passing some index into it. Okay. If you pass an index into it, then it will simply remove that particular element. So if I use pop like something like I want to remove some element, for example, I want to remove something on the index number 3. Okay. So 0, 1. So, okay, 0, 1, 2 and 3. So 3 will be removed there. Okay, let's use some different, let's use 4. So this appended item will be removed. If I use this, and I use this, you can see that the appended item, fourth element, was removed. Okay. You can also remove an element by its value. So let's suppose I want to remove this element called as Python. Just use the function called as remove and pass the value of that element. So if I pass here Python, you can see that that element is removed. And here I have explained the same thing, that removing an element by index. So you can use either pop, that I have already done, or you can use the del keyword. So del keyword, simply you have to write del and your list name, and in the square brackets you have to mention the index of that element. So here I want to remove the element at index number 1. So if you print my list, I will get second element and then this element is removed, and then you will get your list here. Okay. So okay, so don't be surprised by this. Actually I have not executed this part, that's why my list is looking like this. So you can see that first my list was this, second element C++, 3, 5 and 4. I removed the element number at first index, so this C++ is removed, this part is removed, and I got second element 3, 5 and 4. So please don't be confused by that. Okay. You can use del to completely delete an object as well. So let's see if I do del my list. So now this object itself is removed. If I print this, now I get that this object is not defined. So if our object is not defined, I definitely cannot print it, or I cannot do anything with it. So I get this error. So if you use del and the name of your list, it will just remove that object. You can also use a function called as clear. So let's suppose my list is 1, 2, 3, and if I use my list.clear, you will get an empty list, an empty collection. Okay. So these are some of the methods which are kind of basics of list. I have not covered list in detail here because some important and complex topics like loops and list comprehension I will be covering in the next video. So please stay tuned. And I hope you guys like this video. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon for further notifications. Thank you so much everyone, and bye bye.